Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Ted, and today I'm hanging out with
Nerdarchy's Dave.
So in D&D, what's the difference between a Dungeon Master player character and an NPC? Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
Alright, non-player character versus DM player character. So we did a video about, 4 reasons why a Dungeon Master needs, maybe it should have been, feels they need a DM player character in their game.
And we got a ton of comments.
We did. And one of the things I instantly realized after reading a bunch of those comments, because they were like in the hundreds, to me it just didn't seem like people really understand what a non-player character is. And because they gave a lot of examples of why they needed a DM player character in the game, and to me they just described an NPC.
Well,
so I guess we should start off by defining what is an NPC and what is a DM player character.
Okay, well, first off, when we approach the table, one person is selected as the DM or Dungeon Master.
Well, let's start with something even before that.
Okay.
Guys, play the damn game however you want. If you're having fun in your game, that's cool. We're just going to give you our opinions on it.
There you go. Public service statement said. So, one person is selected as the Dungeon Master. The other players at the table are the player characters. Everyone else in the world, besides those PCs, are then non-player characters, or as the term says, NPC.
Now, there's this murky gray area that people try to delve into, and that is called the DM player character.
But by those definitions I've just stated,
it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist because you are the DM, you are not a PC. It is impossible for you to separate as that NPC from what it is that you know because you're acting as it. You know what's going on with the story. You know everything that can possibly happen from here.
But that being said, they do it anyway. So let's get into what defines them as a DM player character. One is the DM player character is not a reoccurring character because he is in every session, right? That's one of the difference between a DM player character and an NPC. Now, some of the other things are, it is a character that is made exactly like a player character with his backstory and starting equipment. And hopefully, if you're doing it kind of fair, the same level as the player characters.
Although they're not always.
But they're not always. And they oftentimes have the same amount of interacting in the game as the player characters, which is a fallacy because as the DM, you're playing everything else. And that, so you're actually getting more playtime now than the players by far.
Yes.
So those are some of the hallmarks of it. And the other idea is that this character is going to level up and take part in the adventures with the characters.
Now, there are times that people talk about, well, I make the DMPC because the party needs these roles filled and no one is selected to be the cleric.
Yeah, and I don't even really want to get into that because we did a video on that pretty much. But what I want to get into is the idea of some of these other reasons that people feel like they needed a DM player character and they put something in the game, but it was really just a non-player character. Like, for instance, henchmen. I like, my players like to use henchmen. I put them in there. Well, that's fine because that's not a DM player character. That's an NPC. It's a specific type of NPC.
The players have opted to hire someone for a task. And it doesn't matter whether it's pass this note, down to the mayor, or whether it's travel with me and defend me.
Carry this torch.
All of these things wind up becoming interesting, and regardless of whether they take place in combat or not, they're not a DMPC. They're a hireling. They are a mercenary. And it is entirely there prompted by player activity.
Yeah, generally, a henchman or hireling is only going to happen when the players seek them out, and then the DM will decide if it's available or not, and they'll put it in the game. And if there's interaction between the characters in the game, the player characters, and that NPC, then the DM will fulfill that role, as far as if he or she has to interact with the environment and other things. The DM can hand it off to another player to do, or they can do it themselves. Whichever works for their game. They can do fade to the background. There's different ways to run that particular type of character.
I know in my game, I had a player who wound up he was a wizard, had an apprentice wizard, thus the character was lower level, and a veteran hireling. And he ran all three characters in combat. And I don't feel that in any way he was detracting from the combat. It made things a little bit more challenging for me because we had a large party and there were, the hirelings, so there was more things going in, but the money that he was getting, he was paying to these characters, and it was a resource drain because we have characters that are lower level that they need more healing because they can't take as much as the players.
And then you would take over and do the role playing, and if the player ever tried to get out of control with what they were going to do, then as the DM you would step in and set boundaries.
Yes.
So the other idea of an NPC that might need to be in the party is the quest giver for whatever reason, or they're part of the quest.
Now, if you want to put the Gandalf in your game, it creates the challenge. All right, this is the person who's delivering the quest, significantly more powerful than the party. There's no real way to die. You can do these kind of things, but I would take it in a different direction. Put more things in as your combat and don't roll. Narrate what happens with them. And when you have the ability to, as Gandalf does, get removed from the story at those opportune times, you can do that, and it will keep the game going at a regular pace, and the players are going to handle what they're able to handle. Just don't overload it and make your DMPC the star of the game, because that...
Well, it's not, at that point, it really shouldn't be a DMPC anyway. It's just a narration tool.
Yes.
It's the same as the tree or the rock in the background, and the other way of doing it is they just come and they go, and they're never there when you need them. Kind of deal is like the best way. Or, the idea of, you're escorting a prisoner or you're escorting an important dignitary, and they're there to interact with and role play. Maybe they can give you some insights here and there through role playing, but for the most part, they don't really take part in the adventure. They're actually what kind of like prompted and stemmed the adventure.
So if you're escorting a dignitary or prince, princess, like they can be someone who just I don't do combat.
They might not be capable.
You handle that. I don't. I've got a sword and I know how to use it, but please handle that.
Or they're a burden and you have to protect them. They're not efficient. They're not combat hardened. There's a lot of different ways you can go about that, and they can enrich the story without taking it over.
You have the ability to have someone there to cite the things that you want, narrate the things that you want without stealing the thunder, without stealing the show, and allowing the players to do as they're supposed to, and that's shine.
And then the other thing, that really sets non-player characters apart from the DM player character is they're a revolving cast. They move in and out of the story. They may come back, sessions later. They may appear, or they may appear briefly every session, right? Because for whatever reason, they go back to town every session. They visit the blacksmith or some waifs or whatever, but they just pop up. They're not there for long, and they go away. And again, non-player character.
Yeah, in my game, I've got Analasalar. He doesn't go out on quests, sort of the one time that you needed to actually take him to the thing, but he is a revolving character. He's been in many sessions, and he was introduced, and people gravitated towards him because he had information. You wound up befriending him, and wound up having that nice elf-dwarf rivalry that blossomed into a cool friendship. Well, he wasn't any DMPC. I was not gonna try and travel around with him, but he's definitely a reoccurring NPC that I enjoy role playing. I enjoy when you guys have conversations with him.
The key when it comes to NPCs is they are the reason why you do adventure. They do not adventure. Essentially, they enhance the experience at the table. They enhance immersion in the world and the game, but they're not part of the party. They're something for the party to engage with, but they never become a part of the party. That is a separate thing. It should be its own thing, in our opinion, and the way we run our games. But that's like a brief overview of our opinion of what the difference is between a non-player character and a DM player character. As always, do as you like in your games. Have fun. Keep rolling funny shaped dice and playing make-believe. What do you guys think? We got a place where you can weigh in on that, and that's in the comments below. While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can tweet at us at Nerdarchy.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.